Support for the Double I Show comes from Manscaped, who is #1 in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped, where it's okay to hit below the belt.
From California.
Checking in from the left coast where we take sound that combines sunshine with rhyme, move 'em around. Take it slow, watch the smoke we blow. Bring California swinging, this thing for show. Well, hey there, baby, doll, dance the go-go. Off a little mentally, I see it in slow-mo. Hollywood, the east side, hub city, and Frisco. Guys with the flyers, fires up in the disco. Whoa, whoa, oh, now here we go. Mira, delincuentes, bum rush the
Welcome to the Double I Show.
Incoherent Idiocy.
I'm Sweet T, and with me as always,
RW King. What's going on, T?
Hey man, I'm loving this tonight, King. We got upgraded tonight. You know, our regular studio, it's not the AC's not working in there, so they kind of kicked us over to the big dog studio.
Yeah, but it's still, it's still not our regular place, man.
It's not. It's a different room within the same studio, but it's really nice over here, man. It's got, at least the AC works, right?
No, absolutely does. And
they got a cappuccino machine in here. Did you notice that?
Yeah,
little latte cappuccino machine.
Yeah, but nobody here drinks that.
I do. I like that stuff.
Figures, man.
Except
Figures, man.
the one thing that's missing is they don't have a beer machine like we do. They don't have the tap.
That's what I'm saying. Our beer tap's not even over here, man.
Yeah, that's the only thing missing, really. So what's up, man? How's it going tonight?
It's going good, man. Another hot day in Southern California, man.
It's boiling out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but first and foremost, we want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Yep.
We want to make sure that everyone's visiting our website.
What's our website?
www.thedoubleshow.com.
Nice. Don't forget our Patreon at www.patreon.com/the Double I Show.
No, absolutely, man. And we want to thank everybody. There's some people pubbing us right now, giving us some get at us pics, with your Double I gear on. We sent some t-shirts out. Folks, if you're going to be pubbing us, we got a Facebook and a Twitter, soon to be Instagram. Go ahead and post it on there, guys.
Yeah, throw it up there.
Anybody
Tag
who
us.
posts anything on there on those things, we can, get your info. We know who you are a little bit. We can communicate with you a little bit. And whoever throws out the best pic, man, we're going to do something for them very special at the end of October.
Oh, sounds nice.
Yeah, we talked about that hoodie contest, man. So that's really what it's going to be, guys. Go ahead and post your stuff on Twitter, Facebook. Whoever has the best post on there, which repping their Double I gear, we're going to kick you down with a special edition hoodie.
Fall's coming.
Right, exactly. So
Fall's on the way.
It'll be just
winter.
in time.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, so what do we got tonight there, King?
Man, we got so much stuff going on tonight, T. I think we just got to get rolling into it, man.
Yeah, I think
there's a lot of stuff going on out in this world, T, and we talk about a lot of stuff, and we talk about different subjects. And this is a little bit of a different kind of subject, and some people are going to look at it as a little creepy. But I think there's going to be some stuff that we're going to talk about that sort of overlaps some of the stuff that we've already discussed.
The hot topic.
So we're going to talk about these serial killers in the United States, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy out there.
We talk about a lot about mass shootings on this show and things like that, and the driving force behind it and the motivation. And it's almost like the same type of things for these guys. And I think that's what we want to start talking about. So one of the first things we're going to talk about is this guy, H.H.
Holmes.
Yeah, man. So go into it, bro.
Yeah, so H.H. Holmes was pretty much the original serial killer here in the United States. All right, this guy started it all. He started in the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. He had a hotel built, especially before the World's Fair started, and it was known as kind of like the killing or the murder castle. Okay, and I mean, he had trap doors. He had valves with hooked up to poison tanks, and they would lead with this tube line into the room, and in the room it would poison everybody with this gas, and they would kill them and knock them out, and then he would just grab their body and go and dissect it or do whatever the hell he wants with it. It was crazy. In his basement there was he had lye, which is, that powder, so that it'll help kind of, kill the body or make the body disintegrate. He had a furnace, but it was more like the kind that you would see at a corner when somebody gets cremated, and he would cremate people in there. He also owned, the guy had money because he was scamming people out of money. He'd run all these insurance scams and everything. And he would scam people out of money all the time. So he had money and he bought a concrete warehouse that was right up against the Chicago River. And it's rumored that he hid the bodies in concrete and just dumped them off the docks into the river. So they think that buried below the river in the soot, deep down there, is a bunch of bodies inside of a bunch of concrete. This guy's insane.
No, he absolutely was. I mean, I think that's probably the common denominator with a lot of these guys is they have mental issues.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they have tons of psychological issues, but I mean, even going back to his childhood, I mean, he killed his nephew or something like that when his nephew was really young. I mean, it's just crazy. It's, the things that this guy did was really, truly sick. And there was a show on the History Channel recently, maybe last year or something, that actually was taking into account that maybe he possibly could have been Jack the Ripper, because at the time of the Jack the Ripper murders were going on, he was actually found to be in London during that time. But there's like DNA and they're trying to find and all that type of stuff. So they think they know who Jack the Ripper is, which would not be him, based off of some DNA that they found off of one of the only piece of evidence that still is there, today. But I mean, this thing is crazy. H.H. Holmes was an insane person. And right now, the land that his murder castle was on is actually a U.S. post office now. They destroyed it and it's a post office.
The area, the building's gone.
The building's gone, and the land
physically, and
the land is a post office.
Built over it, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy though.
And I think the things that, like I want to touch on with this guy is, like you said, how do these things start with him? And I think there were triggers for him right away. And, one of them was with his first wife, or the woman that he married first. Remember, all this happened at the turn of the century.
It did.
Do I believe H.H. Holmes was the first serial killer in the United States? No, absolutely not. 1,000,000% no. Because there's sick people out there, and
true,
there wasn't any way to find them or to document it.
And that's what it is.
Proper ways, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think he was probably the first documented serial killer.
Exactly.
And I think that you see these triggers, when they start, profiling their life and looking at them, and rejection did some things to him. And when people interfered with things that he wanted to do or things like that, he just didn't like it. He was going to school to be a doctor. He flunked out of med school. He used that as an excuse of, just having the desire to cut up bodies and to do things like on cadavers, things like that. That's how he got a pharmacist license.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, you can con your way into things if you knew certain things. And he was really known to be a con man as well.
Yeah, our president.
Right.
It still happens.
He was known to be a con man, and he actually had a business partner who he swindled out and killed him also. He killed his business partner because his business partner and him had come up with some scheme to defraud an insurance company, and the business partner backed out. Said, I really don't think I want to do this. They were going to fake his partner's death.
Right.
And collect on the money.
And he did that a lot.
And he basically said, okay, well, don't worry about it, bro. Just come over and let's just talk about it. He drugged him up, chloroformed them, knocked him out, and killed him. And they collected the money, but the guy was married. So the widow got the money. And basically somehow this con man convinced the widow to give him like 75% of the money.
Right.
Saying that he owed him for business ventures. And he was actually in the process at that time of building another hotel in Texas.
In Texas, yeah.
And this hotel was basically the same kind of thing that held these trap doors, secret passages, things like that. So obviously this guy was up to no good. He knew he can get away with it. He knew, because of his intellect and his understanding of what was out there, how to do things and get away with them. And that's really a big thing with all these serial killers. They sort of know how to get away with it, because if not, they would be caught after the first one.
Right.
And, even I think that's going to parlay us into our next person that we're going to talk about. And for me, it's going to be Ted Bundy.
Yeah, Ted. And I think that's perfect, because you said intellect, and Ted Bundy was known to have a high intellect.
I think in reality, I think Ted Bundy, when he took he failed out of law school.
Correct.
He was not from a rich family, but he wasn't from a poor family either, but they just didn't have a lot of money. There were rumors out there with Ted Bundy that possibly he was an illegitimate child.
Right.
His mother's story was that she had been romance with a guy who was in the military. Then he got stationed out and sort of took off, and that's sort of why he was never around and left her. And there are stories going around that they never confirmed through DNA or anything that his grandfather was his father.
Oh, really?
Right.
That I did not know.
So, and when they try to look into these things and figure this out, they try to figure out what's going on with these guys. And this guy was a sick guy. This guy was extremely sick. And he's claiming, when he was on death row, that this was all motivated and fueled by pornography. That everything he thought, everything he did got fueled and motivated by pornography. And that was sort of his defense. He defended himself in court.
True. Yeah. He had fired his public defender because he didn't like the way he was defending him, didn't think that he was doing it properly. And the judge allowed it.
Well, I think the other part too was that, remember, he had went to law school, and his plan from the beginning, because I heard the interview with him, was that he never wanted a public defender.
Correct. They
appointed it to him because he never got a lawyer, and it was just a process that he was going to defend himself from the beginning.
Right.
They said he looked like a lawyer. He moved like a lawyer. He said the right things. He made objections to the right things. He did a lot of the right things. And they said that's really not something typical of a one-year law student. So one of the things they started talking about after they convicted him of some of these murders in Florida, and that's how it started, T. It was just a couple girls got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the one thing I want to touch on too, before we go any further, T, is we're talking about these guys, and by no means am I glorifying them or putting them on a pedestal. We're just talking about sort of another type of sickness. And that I think you'll see at the end of it, when we sort of come around this thing, how it's going to play out. But there's a big thing here that gets lost in all of these stories, and it's the victims.
Oh, yeah.
The victims get lost because it's all about the murderer.
Correct.
And these guys become infamous. And these other people, they just fade away into oblivion, and they're forgotten, and their families have to deal with that. And I think going back to the story, I just want to make sure and interject that there. That we're not forgetting the victims, too. That's definitely on our forefront here. But I think that Ted Bundy started out, as a peeping Tom. Then he started breaking into people's houses, doing things, trying to rape women, and basically got convicted of trying to choke and strangle a woman. And they got him for kidnapping and attempted manslaughter. And he was doing 18 years. And then he escaped. And when he escaped, he went to one of your favorite states, Florida. And he got a boarding room right near one of the big universities down there.
At a sorority.
And just feasted on these women. And it was just, in a matter of a couple days, they caught up to him, they got him, and after it all played out, he got convicted of over 30 murders, which wasn't the highest count. But before he got killed, even on the way to being killed in his chair, he was on a tape recorder confessing to another murder that no one even knew about.
Yeah.
They believe that he is responsible for over 100 murders. And I think the thing that I'm going to talk about next is how these things, to me, I think the biggest one is going to be the next guy. If we talk about him, I'll let you talk about him, the Green River Killer, is how the cops are sort of just not dealing with this. They're just sort of sitting there like everyone's a runaway. When all these parents are going and talking to hey, my kid's gone, he's missing, he didn't come home. Oh, he's a runaway. And that's what all these parents are saying, man.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of one of the things I want to talk about too. That the cops really they're not financially motivated to handle all sorts of these complaints like this. Right?
Well, when it's a runaway, think about it. There's no way for them to really track him. And so it becomes very difficult for the cops. And the cops are like, it's just a runaway. I can't do anything about it.
It's not the fact that what they said is that it just covers the holes. It covers the holes for the police, because what happens is they give them an answer. And basically their answer is, until they're dead, to us, they're a runaway.
Right, exactly. It's just a missing person.
Yeah, and that's really how they look at it, because there's so many of these kids in the United States now that are running away. And just imagine, say you go and, hey, you know what, my kid's been missing, hasn't come home for 2 days. Well, has he ever run away? Yeah, I think when he was 10. Oh, it's another episode.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He's a runaway.
Yeah. Did he come back before? Yeah, he came back. Okay, yeah, no.
Well, he was fucking 10. Yeah, he came back before it was dark.
Right.
This has gone for 3 days now, guys. It's different.
It's a little different.
You know what I mean? And these people really didn't get action from the police departments, and I think probably could maybe not avoided these deaths, but it could have helped out. So why don't you talk about this guy, the Green River Killer, man?
Yeah, so you're talking about Gary Ridgway. He's known as the Green River Killer. He was convicted of 48 murders, and then he later confessed to even more. Killing women and girls in the state of Washington and California between pretty much in the 80s and 90s. You know, this guy, he got the nickname of the Green River Killer because most of his victims were found strangled, and they were found by the Green River, which is an actual river, and that's how he got known as the Green River Killer. He got spared the death sentence, though, because he was, at the time there was no death sentence and all that. I mean, and there was all that debates on whether or not to give the death penalty or anything. So now he's just serving life without parole. I mean, this guy was sick. This guy did a lot. I mean, and most of his victims, I believe, were prostitutes, that he was going after. And I believe he got caught pretty much as very similar to Ted Bundy in the sense that somebody survived and was able to identify him. And I think that's one of the common things that you see with these guys is they get a little sloppy because they get a little overconfident in their abilities, and the victim survives. They are able to identify them, and the cops are able to go after them because they find out some information about these guys.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that last part, T, but I think I'll just help you a little bit more. This guy was a family man. He was, yeah, you're right. He was a little bit just off the radar, man. He wasn't really, they didn't know what was going on. He didn't change his dumping site, but he took breaks. Well, they thought he took breaks because what happened was he just changed the areas where he was dumping the bodies. Yeah. There was a certain task force in King County. I think King County was the area that he was in. And what happened was his task force went in there and they were developed to sort of stop this Green River Killer. And this was back in the 80s when it started. Maybe even the 70s. I'm not sure. Maybe the 80s.
It was the 80s.
And it sort of stopped in 86. So they thought, hey, there hasn't been any more killings. They just hadn't found him. A couple years later, this one guy who's a famous forensic guy, whatever, who followed a lot of serial killers and solved these cases and stuff around the country. He took a look at the case and basically told them, this guy hasn't stopped killing yet. And they said, well, yeah, we haven't found a body in 2 years or a year and a half. He hasn't stopped killing yet. There's something about his patterns. This is not right. So they started looking at it again. They started finding him everywhere. And this was just going on, and they just couldn't figure this out. When the Green River Killer was going on, there was this taxi driver that paroled up and down these areas and would help these fucking prostitutes out that got killed. A lot of them got killed. And he went to the police to try to help. And the police actually tagged him as the biggest suspect.
Right. I remember that. You're right.
And basically what happened was the guy was like, dude, take a look at, I'm trying to help, guys. And what they're saying is psychologically, people don't interject themselves into situations like that. And it's very odd.
Right.
So come to find out he wasn't the guy and he was trying to help, but he was just a different cat. When they started shaking this out, I think one of the things that they figured out and how they figured out who this guy was and what he was Ted Bundy. Did you know that?
Yeah, they went to Ted Bundy and they asked him
They interviewed him for 2 days. The guys who were on the task force for this Ridgway guy or the Green River Killer, they basically said, look, we're exhausted. We've been at this guy for fucking years and years and years. We got nowhere. We got no leads. We got nothing. Let's go talk to this fucking serial killer. So they talked to him or they communicated with him. Would you be willing to talk to us? Yeah, fuck yeah. They recorded his conversations. He's heard about this guy. Obviously, he gets to read articles, read papers, read things like that while he's in jail waiting to get killed. And he would refer to this guy as the Riverman. And he told him all the things that were pretty scary and basically what this guy did. And it was sexually motivated. It was all about sex. And what they found out was this guy was basically, there were triggers in his life. And the first trigger was that he was rejected by a girlfriend of his. And they were engaged to be married. She called it off. And he sort of got a little bit crazy. Come to find out later on, whatever else, what started happening to you, and they realized this too, is he wasn't having sex with them when they were alive.
No, he was doing it afterwards with the corpse, right?
Well, he'd kill them
Right.
and then have sex with them and then go dump their body.
Right.
But then he'd come back even when it was decaying and have
sex with them again.
Yeah. Because he would decorate the bodies. He'd do certain things. They found a fresh body one time or a freshly found body that wasn't decayed yet. And there were things all over it. Like they said there was raw sausage in the shape of a pyramid on top of her chest. And that her hands were folded neatly on her stomach, holding a wine bottle. On each one of her shoulders was a trout. And there
Fish and wine dinner?
There was some significance to that for him. And it was almost like a trophy, they said, because he wanted to go back and see it again and have sex with it.
Yeah, that's true.
He even during his confession said there were times where he had to push maggots aside to enter and finish.
That's gross.
He's sick.
He's very sick.
And that's what it was. He had these different mental events and things like that. And all these guys basically did that triggered them.
Well, yeah, exactly. There's a lot of psychological problems with these guys, but I just really quick because we got to end on this. We're going to finish Silence of the Lambs when they went to Hannibal Lecter so that they can get like some kind of psychological background on the guy that they're trying to find.
And that's the only way to do it. You got to become them. And that's what the guy was saying.
So I think the next guy that we need to cover, man, is John Wayne Gacy, right?
No, absolutely.
I mean, this guy was sick.
It's not that he was just sick, dude. It's just, the things that happened. And, it's more than just being sick, T, but sort of trying to tell the folks what was motivating this guy to do these things. This is Pennywise.
This is Pennywise.
All right, so go ahead, man. Take this one.
All right. So, he was known around the neighborhood. He was like, kind of like you mentioned the last one, the Ridgway guy, which was the Green River Killer. He was a family man. Same thing with Gacy. He really wasn't a family man too much, but he had a sister, he had a mom and everything. And he lived with his mother at home, and, he was a clown. And that was a big thing with him. He was a neighborhood clown. He would go around and people would hire him for parties. And when he was in his early 20s, so he was a party clown. I think you and I talked about this. He was like the man of the year. He was, wasn't the Rotary Club, but it was something like that, very similar to that. I believe he managed a restaurant, kind of like what
it was Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It was KFC. There you go.
No, he managed a KFC in the town. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was known around the town. Everybody knew him, but then he got busted for sodomy. Of course, he claimed he didn't do it and everything like that. And he was convicted, went to jail for that. And then when he got out, I believe he moved out of the town and went to a new town. And that's when he got a new house. Now, the original owners of that house that he moved into suddenly went missing. It was one of those things where all of a sudden one day they're gone and he's in the house now, him and his mom. And it turns out that he ended up killing the people that were in that house.
I think sort of just to go back before we go any further, just to touch on what you said, he got convicted of sodomy and assaulting a young boy.
Correct.
He got 16 years in prison or 15 years and did 16 months, some bullshit like that, because he was such a model prisoner. He got 16 months of like a 15-year sentence.
Yeah, that's nothing.
And they let him out. And that just sort of goes to how these guys can dupe people and fool people because they're so fucking smart. He just wanted to get out to be another predator again. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, so anyway, like I was saying, he was a clown. He was known for that. He actually painted clowns, once he was in jail. But all these guys started going missing. All these people started going missing. Even the original owners of the house that he lived in. I saw a documentary with his sister, and she recalled going into the house and saying, "Why does it smell so bad in here?" And his mom said, "Oh, I don't even notice it." And it's because they were around rotting corpses that he was hiding in the basement. And it just had such a rancid smell, but they got used to the smell. So then he started burying all the bodies in the backyard.
Well, what he had too is he had an excuse because there was a lot of people that would make that comment. And he was saying there was a crawl space in his basement that every time it rained, it would get flooded.
Right.
So it's like a mildew smell. And then he said he had a small dog too that he kept in the back room by the kitchen. So sometimes it takes a tinkle back there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
So he
what I
was
mean?
making excuses left and right, and his sister thought nothing of it, but this guy, I mean, the body count, what was it, 29 boys, right? They found 29 bodies of teenage boys.
Yeah, and I think the way it went down with this guy is it sort of didn't go down like that. Like they found all 29 at one point.
No, it wasn't. You're right.
They found like 24 in his pad, but it's like we talked about. As we talked about all these people going missing and these parents going to the police. And when I read and really looked at this John Wayne Gacy guy, what happened was the police actually listened to the parents because this kid was a model kid. This kid was good. He was, I forget, maybe he wanted to be an astronaut or something like that. I mean, this kid never missed school. He was on the honor roll, everything else. He said he was going to go talk to a guy about a construction job. He left his mom for 5 minutes. She never saw him again. And this guy just had a history of, doing things. He had a paint and repair company as a cover to get all these young boys to work for him. And he had multiple issues with boys that were making complaints about him touching him and doing things like that. And nothing was really done because when they talked to him, he would convince them, the police or whoever was investigating it, that it couldn't be him. He was such a convincing guy.
Well, plus, like we said, he was one of those guys that was known in the community. He was a good guy in the community that everybody thought.
No, absolutely. And that's sort of what it is. He's putting up this facade and, yeah, man, that's basically how this guy, got, so many people to trust him and to go with him to places and these little boys and these young boys to trust him because they sort of knew him. A lot of them knew him.
Right. Well, even after he got convicted, later on, he actually said that he confessed to several more murders, and he disposed of those bodies in a nearby lake. So he kind of went out of his normal, because you know how a lot of these guys, they follow a pattern all the time, but this time he went to a lake, and he admitted to that afterwards, but he was trying to.
Well, I think that sort of goes to what you said. And when they finally went to his house and they pulled a search warrant because they were following him for like 8 or 10 days, 24-hour surveillance when they got him as a suspect. And he knew they were following him. And he would even tell people like at a bar, hey, those are my best friends out there. The FBI is following me, blah, blah, blah. He knew.
Yeah.
And he went to his lawyer's office, say one night, and didn't come out of there. And he spent the night on the lawyer's couch with the intent the next day to kill himself. So he went around all the people he knew and said goodbye. Right. He went to a drugstore. This is how they were able to arrest him. They went to a drugstore. He went to a drugstore or a gas station, a Shell, and said goodbye to the guy who he talked to every morning and gave him some weed. Look, I'm not going to be needing this anymore, bro. I know you do that. Have fun. So when the cops went in there and asked him what he said to him, he told me he just gave me this weed. They arrested him on drug possession.
That's how they were able to get him.
That's how they were able to, well, because the arresting officer said, look, we can wait and see what we find, but if we do, man, then we don't know what can happen. He can commit suicide. He could do anything. He could kill again.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
And I remember an interview with the attorney, and he said that night that he spent in his attorney's office, they spent the night drinking. They finished a couple different bottles of whiskey.
Yeah. Because he said he's going to kill himself.
Exactly.
And the lawyer's like, fuck yeah, dude, because you're going to go to jail anyway.
There's nothing I could do.
Yeah, so all right, I'm good with it. But that sort of fucked on the lawyer, too.
Wow, it's the lawyer being real, though.
And here we go again, T, where, again, these guys it's all mental health. There's something going on with these guys. And you got a guy like a lawyer who's a barred lawyer, who knows that, have to be talking to this guy, know this guy's not sane, and you don't do nothing to help him, but give him a couple bottles of whiskey?
Well,
fuck, man.
So a lot of these guys talking about the mental health, though, they have that borderline personality disorder. You know, they have antisocial personality disorders, and you know, I mean, seriously, these guys, they suffer from schizophrenia.
All these guys we talked about, and there's 20, 30 more. They all have the same thing. Something happened when they were younger. Something happened. There's something going on with them that made them do this. And the effect of some of these guys is even just pure addiction.
Right.
And that's really what it is. And people don't understand that. And Ted Bundy used to say that too. He says, people don't understand how I could just say in my head today, you know what, 2 weeks from today, 2 Tuesdays from today, or 2 Fridays from today, I'm going to kill somebody. They just don't think people would think that way, because that's how I thought. I didn't know who I was going to kill. I didn't plan on it. I didn't know anything how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to do it.
Yeah. Well, he said he was fighting those demons his whole life.
Well, no, that's what he said. And that was the whole point of it, because he said that he would always call it the entity. Yeah. The entity made me do it. The only reason he said that is because people could never comprehend.
That's the only way they could.
That he would just think that way.
Right.
So he said it that way so they would more comprehend that.
Yeah.
There's no fucking demons. It's the same way this guy's saying pornography is the driver for this.
It's not.
And he got like this big televangelist guy to come and interview him who was against pornography.
Right.
So he's just trying to make this whole thing go down a big, you know.
Well, Bundy was
flames,
one of those weird kind of guys too, where he played up to the media. He loved the attention.
Well, yeah, it was the first televised trial. And a lot of these guys, basically, I mean, they're out looking for attention. Now,
do you remember? And I know this guy wasn't originally on our list to discuss, but think about what happened here in the 80s. Do you remember the Night Stalker?
Well, I remember it a lot better than you. You were a lot younger than me.
I was a lot younger.
No, I was already out of high school, and where he got found and caught was somewhere where I used to go around quite a bit.
Right. It was a block away from somebody's house that we know.
And I remember that even the group of guys I was around, and which was stupid to think, but you know, we were young, high school football players, wrestlers. Let's go find this guy because there's a fucking award. We'll get some money.
We'll go fuck him up and we'll get a reward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just weird, you know. I mean, yeah, everyone was scared because you didn't know where he was going to be.
You didn't know, and he actually ended up being in some of the neighborhoods near us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was all over Southern California.
And we found that out afterwards. It was crazy.
You know, and that's another guy that did the California thing, was the Golden State Killer. They just found him.
And they just found him because of DNA. You know these like 23andMe type of things, you know, you've seen the commercials, right, King?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So apparently this stuff happened in like the 60s and 70s, where it started off, he was raping women, and then he started raping and killing them, and they couldn't find him. And they had, they finally had DNA samples that have survived this whole time. But the thing is they can never match it to anything. And during all these crimes, they couldn't figure this out. But this guy, I mean, he was there. They're like, he's one step ahead of us. Why? Why is this guy one step ahead of us? It turns out he's a cop. That's why he was one step ahead of us.
He was a cop, yeah.
And that's how he knew what they were doing. That's why he knew what was going on.
So what they did is they took DNA samples from 4 or 5 of the victims that he had, because he would have sex with them. And the problem was he didn't kill a lot of his victims. He would just rape them and make the husbands watch him have sex with his wives.
Yeah.
This guy was nuts, dude. He would do shit where he would tie the guy up, and then he put a stack of plates on his back.
Yeah.
And he told him, "Look, I'm going to go fuck your wife in your bedroom.
If I hear those plates,
she's dead.
Yeah.
And I'm coming out to kill you next." And this guy, basically, his big rejection point was micropenis.
Right.
He was the guy with the micropenis. So when they were looking for these guys, the suspects, they would ask guys to drop their shit because I want to see your dick, because they knew that this guy just had a little weenus.
Right.
And what happened was, and how he got caught was, they would take these DNA samples from his victims. Because he wasn't in the database, they couldn't connect him with nothing. Years and years after this guy was the guy on the lead on the case is getting ready to retire. Didn't really have any other means. The case has been cold for 10 years, 12 years, even longer. No one's been working on it. He got contacted to those 23andMe or something like that.
It's not them. It was
It's
like
one
them.
of those. And what they did is they did the 6th degree of separation. They built a DNA profile. His cousin.
That's what it was. It was his cousin.
His cousin did one. But because the DNA link is so close because they're related,
The line.
they started looking into his whole family and found him. And that's how they found it.
Yeah, this is crazy. And
But-
he's his trial. He's
Well, here's the thing, too.
he's
is-
claiming that he's, losing his mind and all
well,
this stuff.
he went to the first trial like in a wheelchair.
Right.
Like fucking saying, hey, dude, I'm all fucked up. But they're saying he was like a 70-year-old guy, but had looked like he was 50. He was in really good shape. But when he went to his first trial, he was in a wheelchair saying he was decrepit, everything else.
Right.
His second one, the judge told him, go fuck yourself. You're in regular jail.
Right, exactly. And right before they busted him, they were kind of following him, and he was riding a motorcycle. They're like, there's no way this guy's fucking, has this problem. He's riding a motorcycle.
No, they said he had a workout center in his house. He was in shape. He was in shape. He was a good guy. But he had no dick. And that was his rejection point.
Which is kind of weird because he was a family man too.
Well, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what most of these guys, with the exception of like a Ted Bundy, although Ted Bundy had a girlfriend and
but,
he had confessed to her about that.
Well, but Ted Bundy also, and she split from him because he even fucking snapped on her a couple times. Like, bitch, I think I could kill you.
Yeah. And
Like
she
sitting
was
across the
worried.
dinner table.
Yeah. And she was
Just out of
worried.
the blue. It's like,
Hell yeah. Would you stay?
Babe, what are you looking at? I'm just looking, thinking, you know what? I could fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Let me eat my pork chop. Yeah, I'm out of there, man.
Yeah. Fuck
I'm
that.
out of there that fucking night.
Straight
Hey,
up.
I'm going to go visit my mom. I'll be back right
I'll
now.
be back.
Fuck, I'm never coming back. I'm not going to do anything like that.
I don't even need any kind of bags or anything. I'm gone.
I mean,
I'll go
right?
with whatever's I'm wearing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the absolute truth. Why would you want to even go back in there?
Exactly.
No, but it's like we said, how much do you love these people? You got to help them. Their family members have to know things are going on.
Some of them claim that they didn't, though. When you see some of these interviews, they're like, oh, I had no idea. Or some of them will say, well, he was always a little bit different and things like that, but I never thought he was capable of that.
I think there's so many movies out there that portray these things and use these real life scenarios in these movies and things, and people don't really look at it. And that movie, The Dead Zone, remember at the end, he was trying to find a serial killer in a small town, ended up being a cop, and his mom knew.
Right.
And his mom was hiding from everybody. She knew every time he went out to kill somebody, and she didn't say shit because that's her son. So it's one of those things, man. I think there could have been some, not saying completely stop these guys, but at least, stop them from until they finish the completion of all the stuff they did.
Well, the signs had to be there. To your point, to your credit, that's what you're pretty much saying is the signs had to be there for them to just go unnoticed, for them just to say, I had no idea. No, they knew that the person was sick.
And that's the thing. And I think we close with that, T, is, I think at some point, all these people, there were people in their lives because they weren't shut-ins.
Right.
These people were family people. I read accounts of even like Ridgway, that his neighbors said that after he was arrested and everyone started talking to everybody around him and they figured out who he was, what kind of person was he? Well, I would always hear him fucking yelling at his wife. Even in my house with their house closed up, he would go out in the front yard and start screaming, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And there was nobody there. And
why the fuck wouldn't you call somebody?
Right? I mean, there were so many of these accounts for so many of these different things. When we made the list, right? And we made a list like 6 or 8 guys deep. So when I started doing the research on them, I'm listening to a lot of documentaries, watching documentaries, listening to podcasts, reading material. These guys all showed these signs.
They all did.
And nobody did anything.
And people knew. People knew that the signs were there, and they just don't connect the dots.
I even think that people knew that what they were doing, people that were close to him, because there were too many people that were just way too close to him. Now, there were people like saying, like with Gacy, that they were, I was his friend for 4 years. This guy would have done anything for you. I can't believe he did what he did.
Right.
And I'm sure you could dupe some people like that, and they're living a double life.
Right. And he was. He did live a double life. His sister was afraid of him, though, because he actually beat up her husband. And so, they kind of kept their distance after that. They kept their distance from him. And they were just kind of more afraid of him because they thought he would have a violent temper like that, but they didn't think he was capable. That was according to his sister.
But and again, too, I think a lot of it, T, at that point is denial. What are you going to come out and say?
Oh, well, yeah, exactly.
What are you going to come out and say? I knew my brother was a serial killer?
No.
I knew he could have been a serial killer? You can't.
You can't. Well, come on.
Maybe after the point of when he dies or whatever, yeah, you know what? But at that point, you can't.
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah, I knew he was.
Yeah. So
I just didn't want to say nothing to my brother.
Again, I want to make sure that every listener out there is just understanding, this is a topic of interest. We had a lot of people talking about other things in different states. We get those come at us, stuff. But the real victims here are the ones that are silent, man. And they're the ones that really everyone forgets in these stories.
It's a real shame because I think you made a great point there is these victims, they're the ones that are going unnoticed. They're the ones that get lost in all of this. And they're the ones that we should be talking about instead of focusing on the killers. So you made a great point, and I'm glad you made that point.
The other thing too, and I guess maybe touching on that, let's make this point too. A lot of people, they wonder, okay, a couple of these guys, they won't get killed. This guy Ridgway, he won't get killed.
No,
he made a plea deal.
Right.
He escaped. I'll say guilty as long as you don't kill me.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm guilty to committing all these crimes and all these murders, but you can't say
life in prison.
Yes, life in prison. And the DAs fight with that. And there was one that I heard, it was a documentary, and they were talking to DA in that Ridgway killings. And he basically said the reason and the motivation for him saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and plead with this guy, because in the beginning his answer was no. For 3 days, no. And he started thinking, but I'm not going to be able to close all these cases.
Right.
This closure is for the families.
Exactly.
This guy's going to die anyway. He's not going to have any quality of life. But at least he doesn't get killed, but at least there's closure for these people.
And a lot of the families, I've heard interviews with families like that, and they said, I don't need him to die. I just need that closure. And for us, that was the most important thing.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what's the motivator for these guys not getting killed. These DAs have to make that decision, and it's tough.
I think that out of all the guys that we talked about today, there was two that were killed. That was Bundy in Florida. He was executed.
Correct.
And then the other one was Gacy. He was executed.
Correct.
Out of the ones that we talked about, that was it.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with our society nowadays. It's real difficult to really do that. I think you look at these death penalty cases, a lot of them are just single murders. These high-profile serial killer cases, these guys don't get killed.
No, a lot of them don't.
It's weird, and I think a lot of it is because of the plea deals. I'm going to let you know everything I did. That way all these cases are closed.
Even the stuff you don't know about.
Right, exactly, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Is they think they got him for 10 or 12. Well, I got 40, motherfucker.
Right, at least.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That I can remember.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Some of these guys, though, and I know we got to wrap up, but some of these guys, their memory is so, kind of to use your phrase, a steel trap. They remember every little detail
Gacy,
of every single murder.
When they talked to him about the people down in his basement, he actually drew a picture for them where everybody was. He couldn't tell them who it was, but it was how the position of the body was, where it was, and it was dead perfect.
And some guys, you tell them the name of the victim, and they say, "Oh yeah, I remember her," and they go into full detail about it. It's crazy.
Well, some of these guys they never know the names.
True,
because they're not looking at that. Like the Ridgway guy, he was picking up prostitutes.
He didn't know their name, but if you describe them, he could tell you.
Whatever it was, he never knew who they were, and he wanted it that way. So it's just different how these guys are. And again, to me, it's all mentally a mental health issue. It all goes back to
mental disorder.
And these guys need help. And, this is what we talk about. But again, I think we need to get off this and go to some, transition to our next subject. But, it's a topic of interest. We wanted to make sure and touch it. But again, we want to make sure and, our hearts go out to the victims, and we're not pubbing these guys. We're talking about this as an interest story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is definitely a human interest, and it's a mental health issue, and we talk a lot about mental health issues.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hey, do you remember when I was telling you about that CSI accident I had? Well, fuck, now there's Manscaped out there, bro. You heard about that? Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer.
Yeah, they have the Lawnmower 2.0 that has proprietary skin-safe technology, so the trimmer won't nick or snag your nuts there, King.
Yeah, exactly. Manscaping accidents are finally a thing of the past, bro.
Well, you don't really want to use the same trimmer on your face that you're using on your balls, man. That's just nasty.
Manscaped also has Crop Preserver, man. It's an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why not put it on the smelliest part of your body, man?
Well, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code DOUBLE at manscaped.com.
Always use the right tools for the job.
Your balls will thank you.
The Man's Corner.
All right, man. So why don't you go and take this one, T? We're going to go and get in the man's corner. I know it's going to get to me pretty quick because you're going to fucking ask me how do I feel.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go with
today,
it.
bro.
Fading fast. Getting old sucks.
All right.
It sure does.
Well, it's like they said, right? Today's 50 or is a new 40 or something like that.
They only say that to the only people that say that are people that are over 50. Because nobody else cares.
Well, yeah.
Because when you're 40, you're not thinking about 50.
But you got to think of this too, T, right? So look at the life expectancy at the turn of the century. It's like 50 years old.
I think less.
I think it was like, yeah, I agree. And now it's
guys were going into their 30s.
It was guys into the 70s now. So science, medicine, medical miracles, things like that, they extend people's lives.
True, they do. They do. Plus, the way of your way of living is different now. It's not as hard. I mean, think about how they had to live back then and what they had to endure.
Well, I'm thinking about how the fuck I had to live when I was younger.
Well, how's that? Poor little baby. Here, want me to get out the violin?
No, I'm just talking about like how much I abused myself.
Well, see, that's what I was going to go into.
I had a professor in college,
that.
And one thing he told me, T, that you could never get back in your life is lost sleep. And you're going to take it off the back end of your life.
Oh, yeah,
so when you
proven.
Don't sleep in the night, you just lost a day in your life.
No, that's proven science. Science has already proven that. Yeah. No, and not just that. I was saying abusing our bodies too is, you and I both played sports. We grew up playing sports. We grew up playing a very tough and violent sport. You were into football. I was into hockey. And I mean, talk about the abuse on your body that it takes and the toll that it takes when you get older.
Well, I think it's not just that, but it's like you said, the era and the time that it was. There was, like we were talking about that the other day. Oh, you just got your bell rung. Smell this ammonia tablet or whatever it was.
Take a salt
Get
tablet.
back in there.
Yeah.
Get another one. Oh, here, smell this. You're all right. You just got your bell rung.
Yeah.
You're getting 2-3 concussions, back to back. And now, because of science and medicine and the understanding, you know how bad that is for you and how it's going to come back to haunt you later.
Right.
And it's a tough thing.
It's really tough. We were talking about this. We were talking about how kind of like how your body feels now. So your body starts to crack. It starts to, hurt a little bit. You get out of bed a little bit slower. And kind of to the whole bell rung thing, you notice it as you get older. You notice the injuries that you had when you got older. I've had a bunch of knee surgeries already. I've had hernia surgery. My knees, surprisingly, are held up pretty good. But certain days you feel it, especially if it's a colder day, you start feeling it a lot more. I think you as a kid, and this is what I'm going to throw this out there. I mean, for the listeners, but you got hit by a car as a kid. It was a hit and run.
No, it wasn't a hit and run.
I thought it was a hit and run.
No, fuck no. It was a head-on collision with a lady, and I was on a 10-speed. It was in
right, you were on a bike. Yeah,
7th grade.
Right, and you got hit. And I think, because you were saying football is what did it for you. But I took it back even further and I said, when you got hit by the car, I think that was what did it. And then football was just like icing on the cake.
Well, I had some pretty bad damage to my right knee and some other stuff from that car accident. That basically the doctor said, oh, you're not going to be playing any sports when you get older. It's just the way it's going to be now.
Right. And you did anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, because I love football.
Exactly. But think about that, though. Think about the toll that it took on your body. And to your point earlier is, when they said, just walk it off or take a salt tablet or here, smell ammonia. How many times did you get hurt and they tell you to man up and power through it?
Well, even when I have you talked about your knee, I'm holding on as long as I can to get my replacement because of football.
Correct.
And I had a really bad knee injury and they didn't want to take me out of the game.
No.
Yeah, the coach was flagging me back to go in and I couldn't even fucking stand up. So basically I just got down in my stance. The next play came and I just laid there and the pile ran over me. and the fucking guy got tackled. I got credit for the tackle on that fucking play, dude. And at that point, it was hurting so bad, I just laid there until they came and get me.
I remember because I used to go to the games.
Yeah, and I was just like, what the fuck's going on with my leg? It's like burning all the way up my fucking whole side of my body.
Yeah, because you shredded it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got bent the other way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, absolutely, man. And you just think about that. But I think even with people who aren't, affected by those type of things, age affects you. And I think one of the things I want to touch on, especially for men, is the things that we have to take care of when we get older, is our prostate, our colon checks, things like that, because it's not only going to dictate how long we live, but it's going to dictate our sexual life too.
No, you're true. You're right. That's absolutely
the thing
right.
that we have to start thinking of. When you're younger, you're not worried about it. You get a boner when the wind blows. When you get older, man, you start realizing it isn't like that, and you want that thing to work. You got to make sure and have some at least understanding of what's going to make your prostate healthy. Understand that if there's genetics involved and your family has a history of something like that, make sure you get it checked early.
Diet plays into that too.
Guys, if you're 40 years old and haven't had your prostate checked yet, go fucking do it.
You got to go.
You got to go. We've talked about that on a couple of shows, and I think that's one of the things I wanted to talk about here. Is guys neglect themselves until shit starts going on. And at that point, it's too late.
I'm guilty of that.
We talked about that on another show.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. But
I own it.
And on this topic right now, I think even just going to how it's going to affect men sexually, that's the biggest thing there, guys, is your prostate. When you get older, that's the biggest factor in your sex life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I own that. I'm guilty of that. I was 43 when I finally went. No, strike that, 42 when I finally went. And you know what? The doctor's like, you should have came when you were 40. You should have been here right away when you were 40 just to get looked at. And I went because, like what you were saying, is I went when I started noticing something wasn't right. And it was my urine. I noticed that I wasn't, I didn't have the heavy, powerful stream that I used to have. And I'm like, wait a minute, something's not right. So when I went to the doctor, he's like, yeah, that's why. He goes, you got to get this thing checked.
And these guys have to get out there. And I think the biggest thing is just to overcome that fear, is to make sure you get in there, you take care of it. And yeah, we're all getting old, man. But that doesn't mean we have to stop liking new things.
No, but I mean, okay.
Look, okay, here's the other part that I want to talk about. Just because we're getting older, we don't have to start liking things that younger people like. Sex, porn, having a good time, dating a lot of women if you're single. There's nothing wrong with that, even if you're older.
Right. But I mean, I think what you were saying, we don't have to like what the younger generation likes, and that's what midlife crisis type stuff, right? I mean, some of these guys, they're trying to be like listening to Taylor Swift or trying to listen to some of this shit.
And you know what? Hey, if you do, you do. And that's your choice. But I mean, if you don't like it and you're posing, that's different, dude. That's
what I'm talking about, posing.
Any point in life, a poser is a poser. Doesn't matter when you get older or not.
True, but it's worse when you get older.
I'm just talking about guys who don't be afraid to be yourselves.
Oh, yeah.
And don't think you have to change because you're getting older. If you want to be freaky and you want to tell chicks, hey, you know what, at a bar, hey, how you doing today? Oh, I'm doing fine, sweetie. How are you? Good. Hey, do you think I could have a drink? Yeah, if you're going to sit on my finger. Don't be afraid of it. If that's who you are, it's what you are. Yeah, do you think you could sit down? We could have a nice discussion about politics? No.
You do you, boo.
Exactly.
Just be you.
That's what I'm saying. That's the whole point. Is I don't think guys have to change because they feel they're getting older. I think a lot of guys change because they feel they're getting older. And you don't have to. Stay who you are, guys. Remember, just keep doing what you're doing. Hammer it till you're done. That's the way I look at it.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I would never judge anybody for that. Absolutely not.
The other thing too, guys, is hold on to your youth. Right? You want to keep that youth as long as you can. Don't abuse your body. Don't do drugs. Don't do things like that are going to start tailing off your sexual content. Right? I mean, the more you abuse your body now, if you're younger, the less longer you're going to have this to keep going later on.
Well, here's where I'll say where you kind of do want to change as you get older is your diet, though. Because like what you said with the sex drive, your diet as you get older, if you start eating better, that's going to help your sex drive.
I think if you look at it consciously, even if you're younger, it isn't about changing it when you get older so you don't have problems. It's changing it now. Right? I mean, you
mean
have to
changing
start.
it if you're young.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you're an older cat, you got to start changing some of that now, and that'll help you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, you're right. But I mean,
You know?
that's sort of common sense. I'm talking about like the younger guys who think they're invincible.
Oh,
I'm going to eat burgers till I'm 30, bro. I'm good. I'm not gaining a pound.
that's my son.
Yeah, and that's how all they all are. That's who I'm
I
talking
mean,
to.
he eats well, but because he has other motivational type things, like he's trying to he's into athletics and everything. He's trying to be a lot healthier. But I mean, he thinks he knows it all too, and I think that was us when we were his age too.
Well, I think just getting back to what we were saying, I'm just talking about sexually. If guys start taking care of themselves when they're younger, it's going to last longer. And that's sort of what I was touching on. And that's sort of what we want to stay focused on is how are these guys and how are men going to be able to fight these effects of getting old, T? Yeah, so that's going to go to wrap us up from the Man's Corner today, T. Again, I think just the thing I wanted to make sure is guys don't wait too long to start getting your checks and start taking care of yourself now. Guys don't have that invincible thought like every other young man and go out there and take care of yourselves. That's all I want to make sure we get that point across.
Yeah, I think you're right, King. But the other thing that we got to say too is, it kind of sucks sometimes getting old. You know what I mean? Because you have that young man's mentality. You still want to be able to do that, and it just kind of sucks sometimes.
Yeah, reality sucks. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But that's life. So,
Did you know?
So a little bit of a did you know? This one is called Shooting Fish in a Barrel. Hey, King, did you know that women are the majority of seniors, accounting for 57% of the U.S. population over 65 years old?
see, and that's what I'm saying. These older guys need to understand, man. Hey, when they get older, shit, they're going to have a lot of trim to be chasing, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's called Fish in a Barrel, right?
Why do you got to call these old lady fish, dog?
Come on.
Why do you guys got to put that term in there?
It's not that. Okay, think about it this way.
You could have said...
There's a dating website called Plenty of Fish. Think about that, right? That's what they call it, so...
But okay, no, I understand.
Right?
And I understand
Tell me I'm
term,
wrong.
Plenty of fish in the sea, but they got to change that, dog.
Well, I mean, I don't think... Okay, wait,
It's
if
like
they
that,
were to
it's
call
like that
them...
old cartoon where the blind man's standing in front of the fish market.
Hello, ladies.
Right? So, yeah, dude, you just, I'm just saying.
No, I hear you. But I mean, think about it, man. There's hope for guys like you that are going to be single when they're old, right? When they're really old. You only got like 2 more years before you're in that category of 65.
2 more?
Yeah, right?
Oh, well, okay.
Because you got a birthday coming up. But
Well, no, but it's like I'm telling you, though, dude, T, I don't think it's about years, dude.
what is it then?
Miles.
Well, dude, okay, then you've already exceeded that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like 80 in miles right now.
No, your odometer's already turned over.
So when does it turn over? Not at 100.
100.
So I'm like 112 because my odometer turned over like 12 years ago.
Yeah,
dog.
it turned over a long time ago, man.
Fuck, I'm like the oldest guy in the United States right now, bro.
Well, if we're talking miles, yeah. That's a hard
Hey,
life.
do you think what's that show, Good Morning America? They have the oldest person or whatever. They always say happy birthday to the oldest
to the
person.
old people?
Yeah, like the 99-year-old lady
Yeah.
from Lake Titicaca.
I think it was like 110 or 109 recently, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to be one of those, like 112. I'll be like that.
Well, okay, yeah, okay. But wait a minute.
Like Steve-O.
But that's a hard.
112? Me?
No, I'm thinking right now that's hard what you are
So
right
what-
now.
What do you
I'm
mean?
just looking at the way you look right now. That's
Go
a hard
fuck
looker.
yourself. No, it's not. All right, dude. So here's another one too, right? So there was this guy, and I'm a guy at work, right? And I'm not as old as that, right? At all. So anyway, I know you're joking, but it's sort of probably everyone's thinking, "Fuck, this guy's old." There's a guy at work, and he's close to retiring, right?
Right.
And he's about 12, 14 years older than me. And I started working there, and we talk, and he's a cool guy. And we were talking one time, and
Talk about the good old days.
no, he tells me, hey, we're talking in a group, and there were a couple girls there and whatever else. And he says, hey, it's just like me and, and he points at me, says, we look about the same age. We're just a few years apart. And I'm looking at this dude like, fuck, I hope I don't look like him. I got so fucking like just conscious. You know what I mean?
Wait. Did it insult you?
A little bit.
A little bit, right?
A little bit. And I was thinking, fuck, I'm looking old.
Well, you look a little hard some days.
So, yeah, fuck yeah, because I don't sleep and shit. But I went and asked like the HR manager and the girl who was at the table, hey, do I really look as old as that dude? And they're like, no, not at all. And I was like, oh, okay. But I'm thinking they're probably saying that to be nice, right?
Yeah, maybe. The other thing is maybe they actually believed when you asked them that. They believed what they were telling you. And for him to say that you guys are only a couple of years apart, it's his way of trying to say he's young.
Well, it is,
you know
because
what I mean?
he dyes his hair. See, I don't dye my hair.
Oh, no. See, I got a boy that dyes his hair because he's completely white.
I don't dye
but
my
it's
hair.
a bad dye job. And I told him,
dude, but
I flat out told him.
It don't matter what dye job, T. They're all bad.
Yeah, it's really bad though. Like really, really bad.
Yeah,
where
man.
you could see the
it's like I told you when I grow my goat
on your skin and shit. I mean, that's awful.
Well, it stays like that for a couple days till you start getting it off, but you don't want to scrub it either in the first couple of days because it takes it out.
Yeah, exactly. You got to wear special shampoo.
I only get it on the side. That's where all my shit goes, on the side.
It's like just for men or what?
No, on the side of my head.
No. They have those like just for men combs and shit.
Yeah, but you can tell it looks fake, dog.
Can you? I don't know. I don't use it.
I tried it once. You know, I was dating a younger girl.
Genetically, we're brothers, but I mean, seriously.
No, they said smoking. I smoke cigarettes.
You smoke cigarettes. Yeah, you're right.
I said that's a big trigger
smoking
for gray
and
hair.
stress. And I don't have.
You don't have any, fucker.
Well, I have stress, but I don't smoke. And so I don't have the gray hairs like you. I don't have any gray hair.
So what are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say you fucking look hard.
Well, because
that's a hard 50.
Oh, yeah. But okay, think of this too, right? I started thinking about this the other day. Look at the jobs I've had since I've been like 22, 23.
Oh, they've been pretty high stress.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I mean, seriously, they have been.
And the reality was I went that one stretch and I was pretty good in my mid 30s and I didn't have a stick of white when I went there.
Not
After
true.
10 years, I came out of there white.
You came out of there white.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, too, the hard living, too, that kind of does it, too.
Yeah.
Like we said, mileage.
It was a little bit of a whirlwind there. That was when I worked for that Asian company, dogs. We did a lot of travel.
Right,
Didn't do a lot of sleep. Even when I traveled, didn't sleep.
Well, yeah, I mean, what, 16, 17-hour flights, shit like that. I mean, you can't sleep on those. I tried. You can't.
It was a tough 10 years, man. But yeah, hey. You know,
hard life, right?
You come out the other side.
Cheers.
You get reborn. Right. Anyways, man.
Your odometer already turned over.
So what do we got next, man?
And now, sports.
All right, so we got some sports there, King. You want us to lead in with a little bit of NFL?
Of course, man. So I'm going to go ahead and talk some NFL right now. You know, I know we got some stuff written up, but I'm just going to talk about a couple things right now. The first thing I want to talk about again, I'm going to let you fucking jump in this because I know you love it. But I want to talk about this AB shit again, dude.
Oh, don't get me started.
So there was a big drama. Obviously, we record on, the days we record. And the day before we recorded, there was a big blowout at Raiders camp.
I'm loving that.
AB called Mike Mayock a cracker, told him he could punch him in the face, grabbed the ball and punted it and told him to fine me for that, fucker. And then fucking took off all because of a fine.
And Mayock got in his grill too. Like they had to pull him apart. They were going to throw down.
Correct. And typically, I'm just going to say this and then I'm going to let you say your piece and then I'm going to close with something and it's going to make us both think because I heard this today. Okay. And I never thought that way. All right. So I'm going to say my part. My part is, this guy's got his issues, T. I told you they knew the luggage they got with him. The media came out as soon as this happened, and here goes the media. Like I said all the time, he's going to get suspended. He's not going to play Monday. He could possibly lose $30 million. These are all potential things. But the way the media spins it and the way they put it out there is almost like this was said by the Raiders. Right. None of this shit was said by the Raiders. Nothing. There was no official statement to come out that he was going to be suspended. There was no official statement to say that anything. But the media put it all out there within a day. Correct. Today, it's all good. AB's playing Monday. Everybody kissed and made up. It was just one of those things. Yeah. So what's your take on this? Okay. So you're right. The media did kind of overblow it. Well, this is what I say all the time, T. They have the power to do that because they take segments of your verbiage. Well, okay. So think about this, right? I mean, we know this saying about the media, and this has been true forever. If it bleeds, it leads, right? This is the same type of thing. It's sensationalism. They want to be able to get that headline. They want to be able to get those viewers, right? They want the Twitter. They want everybody to get those views. All right. So we know that. My take on this whole thing is, one, they knew what they were getting when they got the guy. Okay. He's a problem. And they decided they'd rather live with that problem than not. So I don't feel sorry for the Raiders at all. But I think this guy, something's got to happen. And I think the Raiders need to suspend him. They need to make an example out of him. Because quite honestly, these two need each other. AB needs the Raiders and the Raiders need him.
And quite honestly, I think I'm going to throw it out there. Think about it this way, King. If this was you and I, and we did that at our job, would we have a job to come back to?
No, not at all.
No, fuck no. Fuck no, we wouldn't have a job. This guy's got his head so far up his ass, smelling his own farts, and thinks he's the fucking god of everything. And somebody's got to either knock him on his ass or do something, because he is an idiot. That's my take on him.
And I knew that, and that's why I wanted you to finish with it, because I heard something today and it made a good point to me. Don't you think that maybe at any point here, anyone's saying, let's go check to see if this guy needs some help? Maybe he has some mental issues. Maybe he's bipolar. Maybe there's some kind of chemical imbalance in there. Guy, no one's talking like this. And this guy has had a seriously big history of concussions in this league. There is no way to check players who aren't dead for CTE.
No,
they haven't developed that yet.
True.
But they know it onsets with them at different rates, at different stages, different guys.
Right.
I'm not saying that's what this is, T. And I think there are times where he can think cognitively and he can think rationally and he's fine. But then I think there's times he snaps. And I think there's been a lot of guys who didn't understand they even had a problem until they went and addressed it. And everyone, including myself, has never really thought of that. I've never thought of that with him until this last incident.
No, you're absolutely right. And actually, now you got me thinking about that.
And that's why
we talk about mental health all the time.
Right. And I knew how you were going to come off on this, because that's how I was too, starting to get, this guy's just a fucking idiot. He's got to stop this shit. Just fucking cut him. Just fucking set him straight. What if he's got a problem, T?
But see, there's how can you address that problem, though?
Here's the biggest thing we always talk about, right?
Right.
People don't fess up to this. They won't be the ones who are going to go identify it. It's very hard for that. Someone has to step in and help. And that's a lot of the problem here, because this guy has entourage. Those guys aren't going to go up to him and tell him shit. Even his agent, Drew Rosenhaus.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say right now.
Him.
No, hell no.
When they brought that up to Drew Rosenhaus, he's fine.
Right.
That scared me, how fast he said that, because it almost seems to me like he knows there's something going on.
So you're absolutely right. And I'll take it a step further. You said he has an entourage. Okay, let's put them aside. He's got a family. And I guarantee you, all these guys that have the family, they're hanger-ons. Family or not, they're hanger-ons, right? If you were a big-time NFL star and I was a hanger-on, I'd be over there, I'd be your lackey. What do you need? I'll go run and get it. I'll go do this. I'll go do that.
And a lot of them are, man.
Right. And they're not going to...
They're not going to mess up their meal ticket. They're not going to go against it.
They're not going to do that. And they're going to say, you know what? He's fine. Get out of here. Why are you starting this?
Go make the money, bro.
Right. Exactly. Go get your bag, boy. Get your bag.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. They'll never admit to it. And they're never going to be the one to approach him saying, you need help.
And that's the problem.
That's family.
But that's the problem, T. And that's my point. I think bigger than that, bigger than someone has to discipline him and put him in his place, someone needs to try to get him some help and at least get him looked at.
I'm more worried about how can they get them help?
Right, exactly. Someone's got to figure that out.
Yeah, because I haven't been able to. I'm thinking about how would somebody do that, because everybody around him is going to say no. Everybody around him is going to be feeding it in his head, saying you're fine. They just don't understand you. Nobody gets you. That's all they're going to do.
No, absolutely, man. So I think the other thing that we really want to talk about is Andrew Luck, man.
Luck retired.
So we're going to change gears a little bit now, and we're going to talk about Andrew Luck retiring. And what's your take on that, T? And then I'll close that one up.
I'm a little bit sad to see him go. You know, it's kind of like the talent that never really materialized. He had the talent. He was so gifted. But, you know, with injuries and everything, he was always playing banged up. He didn't miss a lot of games up until recently. But, I mean, the guy was so banged up every year, year in, year out. And he just wasn't right every year. And you could tell, you know, he struggled at parts during his, in a season because of that. And I'm just kind of sad. I'm kind of bummed out that he retired. But I understand why. And when I heard his press conference, I don't blame him for doing that. And I'm going to tell you one thing real fast, because I know you mentioned Luck, but I'm going to throw this guy out there too, is Gronk just came out recently and talked about his retirement. And of course, he was promoting his CBD oil stuff, right? But quite honestly, he said a lot of things that was very similar to what Luck was talking about. How they just couldn't get up in the morning. The game wasn't fun for them. This wasn't anything that they wanted to do. They just couldn't continue. They couldn't go on. They didn't have the passion, you know? And so it just kind of got me thinking about that. How many more guys are like that?
You know, you don't just think about that, but think about what time this is in their life. Their whole life they've been playing this sport. So they didn't have years off. You know, since they were Pee-wee football, Pop Warner, to high school, to college, to the pros, they've never had time off of this sport. And then, like you said, when they rehab, that's a lonely motherfucker. And it's tough mentally. And you lose the passion for the sport. And I got to take my hat off to Andrew Luck for stepping up and having the balls to retire.
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't have the balls to do that. And I was listening to Dan Patrick, and he was talking to Jim McMahon and to somebody else right after Andrew Luck retired. And Jim McMahon said, fuck, I wish I would have been as smart as this guy. I should have retired after the Super Bowl. I was already banged up. I was taking pain pills every day. I was trying to do things. Now these guys drive away from their house. They can't even find their way home.
Right. And Jim McMahon's one of those guys. He's struggling really bad.
A lot of them are.
He is. Yeah, you're right.
But they did say too that before they were more scared because they didn't know what was going on. But at least now they know what's going on and it helps them a little bit.
Right.
But it's just tough. And I think Andrew Luck wanted a quality of life after football. And I think, you know, he's got a family and he's got everything else. So,
he just got married.
So yeah, he wants to have a quality of life after football.
Yeah.
It's not about money for him.
No.
And hats off to Andrew Luck for doing what he did.
I think hats off to the Colts as well, because they didn't take that money away from him.
I think that's a different motivation, T. And I'm going to tell you only because I know the NFL.
Right.
There wasn't hats off to them and they're being good guys about this. They're thinking in their head, if there's any chance this guy's going to come back, we want him to come back to us.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're going to pay him. If they cut him off right there, maybe. They have no rights to him.
Right.
You paid him his full contract. If they have him for 4 more years, they have the rights to him for 4 years.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah.
They didn't do it just to say he's a good guy. But hey, you know, fucking closing out the NFL. NFL's getting ready to start this weekend. I'm loving life. Zeke signed. Melvin Gordon, nowhere close. It's what we talked about before. You know, we knew that. I think they're ready to move on from Melvin Gordon. Philly threw a little bit of a
that was a weak sauce, though.
But somebody had to because nobody really thrown nothing out.
Right. So I would start low anyway.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I'm going to throw it out to see what happened.
Yeah.
You know what are they going to say? No? Okay, no.
And they did.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Big deal.
But now everybody knows what they're looking for because they came out and said it.
Yeah.
They want 2 high-end picks.
They're not going to get that.
And they're not going to get that for a guy who wants to get overpaid.
Right.
So I think it's going to be tough for Melvin Gordon. They say he's got to report by week 10 or 11 to get credit for this season. But the team might not even play him at that point. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. I hope he figures it out.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, it just kind of sucks to see this going on, really. I mean, we know that the Chargers are notorious for this, but it just kind of sucks, man. That ownership,
because they're like ready for a Super Bowl run, T.
Right.
And Rivers God only has 1 or 2 years left.
Done. He's done after this.
You know, I think Gordon was being a little bit selfish here, dude.
I think so too, but at the same time, you know, these guys are disposable. The way that the running backs are treated, I hate the way they treat the running back position. You know
what this reeks like to me is this guy knows he's hurt more than he's letting on.
Maybe,
and he can't stay on the field. He knows it.
Maybe
he wants to get paid now
and get paid just to secure his bag.
If I play another year, I cannot play anymore. No, that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I like that.
So what we're gonna do now, T, is obviously this show drops on a Tuesday. But we're going to give our...
What? It does?
This show drops on a Tuesday, and it's going to be after the first football game. But we're going to put it out there, and I'm going to put my nuts on the sack right here. And I'm going to give you guys my lock of the week every week. So that way on Tuesday, at least we can go back and see how fucked up I am. I'm going to give you a lock of the week and an upset of the week.
Okay.
Lock of the week, we're going to go without point spread. So I'm not going to do point spread. I just want to win. So if you're like in a confidence pool or one of these survivor pools...
The survivor pools are fun.
You know what I mean? This is your lock of the week. Philadelphia over Washington this week. Washington just doesn't have much, you know. Yeah. Well, it's week 1. You think that it's that easy, right? But again, it's probably a 50-50 shot that I win. It's just so fucking screwball in the first week. Nobody knows what's going on.
True.
You know, so I'm going to go ahead and take Philadelphia there. I can't use Philadelphia again the rest of the season. So we use Philadelphia.
So we're going to treat this like a Survivor then.
That's how I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
But then I'm going to give you guys like another pick just to throw it out there. And I got a good friend of mine, Big R in Virginia. You know, he's a listener of ours, good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He threw it out. I was talking to him today. He loved it. I love it too. It's one of those things we mesh our minds together.
That's
I
scary.
asked him, hey, brother, what's your big upset pick? And he said what I was thinking. Arizona plus 2.5 over Detroit and Arizona. Kyler Murray will win that game in Arizona. Detroit stinks my balls.
Well, both stink balls, but
Yeah, they both do. But at least they got a quarterback in Arizona now.
so it's cream of the crap.
Cream of the crap. There
That's
you go.
really what it is.
So that's my
That's your
upset special of the week.
Nice.
I'll have a lock of the week for confidence and survivor pools, and I'll have an upset of the week as well. And then we'll see how we do on next week, man.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. I want to talk about one thing, T. You know, I don't think there's any NBA stuff out there. I know Dr. X threw a couple of NBA things, but I'm going to kibosh it a little bit, and I want to touch on something. We've talked about and we've had on our board a little bit of some NCAA money stream. You remember that subject we've talked about a few times?
Yeah.
I just want to talk. NCAA football started. College football started. College football is huge money revenue. We know that,
Yeah.
right? You know, the way that they do the bowl championship series and the way the national championship comes, that's a tremendous amount, billions of dollars. And these schools get a lot of money for this. And every year, there's schools out there that schedule these guys in cupcakes to come in and beat up in the first week,
Yeah.
right?
USC was notorious for that with Hawaii.
Well, yeah, but it's not just that, too. You got to fill out your schedule years in advance. And when you're really good, like USC was for a long time, and I hate USC, too. You know that. You know,
Yeah,
I
we
hate
both
USC.
do. We both do.
So what I'm going to say is no teams wanted to play them because if you lose to them that early in the year, your season's over. You don't have a chance to win a national championship.
Absolutely.
So good teams, out of conference teams, didn't want to play them.
Right.
And I don't blame them.
Right.
You want to at least get to the conference, at least undefeated, so you have a chance to go to BCS bowls.
Right.
So I'm going to talk about two programs, and one of them is near and dear to our hearts, is UCLA. UCLA didn't
Killing me.
They didn't schedule a cupcake. They played Cincinnati, who beat them last year, but they were supposed to be much improved.
Right.
This is year 2 for Chip Kelly, and they look horrible.
Horrible.
They look like they have no understanding of football. There's nothing going on. It's regressing.
It looked like a bunch of little kids barely learning how to play football, and they all chase the ball and run in the same direction.
I don't know
It's
what's
fucking
going on
horrible.
over there, but something's got to happen. You know what I mean? The other program locally is USC, and they look like shit, and they lost their quarterback for the year.
Yeah.
JT Daniels. He tore his ACL in the first half. He's out for the year. They're fucked. That coach is gone. So I think we're going to have 2 new coaches in LA next year.
I think Chip Kelly will probably survive this. I think he'll go one more.
He might get one more year, but
I
he
think
has to
he'll
make
get
a
one more.
difference.
Yeah.
Now, the one story I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit further away from us, but University of Tennessee. Big SCE program. Huge program. Peyton Manning came out of there. Big name guys come out of there.
Mhm.
The Vols. Huge program. The Volunteers went 2 wins last year. They had a new coach. Basically broke everything down. Said, you know what, man? You got to start winning this year. They tell the coach, no problem. I'm going to schedule Georgia State in my first game. Georgia State's like, fuck you, man. We go to the playoffs every year. We're not going to play you in Tennessee to get our ass kicked.
Game 1.
Game 1. You know, we play in the, what is it, FBS or FCS? What is that? No, they're FCS.
They're
which
FCS.
Is, yeah, and the FBS is the bowl series,
Right.
guys. It used to be like Division 1A, then Division 1 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was kinda
It's
weird.
all fucking weird
Yeah.
now, but it's a lower school.
Right.
And basically the way Tennessee got them to play them was, we're going to give you $950,000 to your athletic program.
Right.
And that's how they do it. Dude.
Yeah.
And in some of these small schools, that one game
That's
funds their
huge.
whole
Their
athletic
whole
department
athletic
for the year.
department. Yeah.
$1 million.
That's huge.
That's a big budget.
It is.
So they took the game. They beat Tennessee outright. This happened a few years ago in Michigan when Appy State beat them.
I remember that.
But you don't schedule Appy State. Appy State went to the championship like 4 years in a row, you dumbasses.
Yeah.
And you still had to pay them $1 million to come in there and beat your ass.
Exactly.
Same thing happened
Thank
here.
you, sir. May I
You
have
paid him
another?
$1 million to come in there and beat your ass. You're going to tell me that fucking alumni and those fucking boosters don't want to kill that fucking coach right now?
Oh, fuck yeah.
He's already done.
No, he's done.
Yeah,
Dead man
he's
walking.
Dead man walking, bro. That's exactly the
Big
term I was
time.
going to use. No matter what he does now, he's out.
Yeah.
So
He
I'm
could
just
win
saying,
out. He could win out, and he's done.
Probably. And unless he goes to a big time bowl, but he's not. He can't beat these guys.
There's no way. There's no way he can.
And that's sort of what gets me. This guy was a big time coach too. Chip Kelly's a big time coach. They paid the guy at USC, even though he's not a big time coach. They pay him big money, and these guys can't produce. They got to know what they're getting, man.
You know, it's what you talk about all the time, especially when we talk about fantasy football, right? It's name chasing. These guys are name chasing. They're going after the retread big name that they know.
Well, I think USC stayed away from that. They didn't want that, and they were trying to get the big name coordinator.
Well, they tried to get a big name head coach. I thought
they kept this fucking fool. They interviewed a whole bunch of guys, but they kept this guy.
Yeah, well, he's done.
He's done too, man.
He's done, man.
So you know what? Fuck all that. Fuck the NCAA. I do like watching Saturday football though now. Hey, and I would just next episode we'll talk a little bit about the XFL.
No, we're not.
Actually, it's going to be better this year.
Dr. X, don't put him in. Don't allow him.
They have a lot of ex-NFL guys running the organizations now.
Yeah.
It's not like Vince McMahon shit anymore. It's more. It sounds actually more like they're copying the AAF model.
They probably are.
Yeah, because they knew that's the way to get the traction. They have to be involved with the NFL somehow. They have to. There's no way to survive if you're not.
So they're getting away with the gimmicky "he hate me" type names and all that bullshit.
Right. I mean, they may have something squirrely with a little bit of different rules, like maybe no kickoffs or something. Start at the 20-yard line or something like that.
Right.
But
which
they're
is
not going to do nothing
what
hokey.
the NFL is going to go to anyway.
I don't think it's going to be like that entertainment. I think they're going to make rules like he's going to promote more scoring and more things now, because even like the LA team, it has, I forget who the coach is, but he's an ex-Super Bowl coach. He was on a staff with all of them. The offensive coordinator's Norm Chow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's big name guys, dude.
Fucking Norm Chow, really?
They're pulling these guys out of retirement and stuff to come to the XFL, but they're respectable guys. They're not doing it like they did last time.
Right.
They're really doing it right.
They weren't
now.
high school coaches
Correct.
this time. Yeah.
They're going to be playing in February. They already had their combine. Or no, they're going to have their combine, and they're going to invite athletes from 10 or 12 different countries.
Are they going to have the same type of like concussion protocol and everything like the NFL?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's same as the AAF. Any of these organized sports have to. You know what I mean? They have to. They can't do it the other way, T. There's just too much public outcry for that.
Well, and there's a lot of money on the line too, and everything like that. From a PR standpoint, things like that.
I mean,
you know,
the whole thing too is they want this thing to work, and player safety is going to be a big thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really, that's the premise of it. So that's how they're going to see it. But they've said basically they've extended offers to basically anybody who's eligible to play, who either played in some kind of organized college football or something else, but they've invited over 10,000 people to their combine. And they're going, one of the guys they were talking to from the LA coach, he was flying to Thailand to see a couple kickers. So they're going all over the world.
They're going global.
Yeah. And that's what they want to do too.
The one guy that would get me to watch is Kaepernick. If they could pull that off and they can get Kaepernick.
But look what happened with the AAF. He just wants so much money that they're just not going to be able to do it.
I don't know if it's all about the money though for him.
It was 100%.
Well, hold on. At the time, he was embroiled in a issue with the NFL. He sued the NFL. Now that's already past him. Okay. So that's already done. They settled out of court. We don't know what the settlement was, but maybe now he's looking to come back, because did you see the video of him throwing route catches to Odell Beckham?
Yeah. Again,
he could still throw, he could still play,
but
he's still better than half of the dudes on rosters right now.
No, I understand that, but this is going back to the AAF. When they contacted him, they wanted to give him an outlet so he could show that he could still play. He turned it around. Hey, if you want me to play, you got to pay me $10 million. They can't pay him $10 million. That league couldn't afford $10 million to anybody.
Well, what about the XFL?
They can, but at that point, is it really about him trying to get back in the NFL or just all about himself? And that lawsuit for the NFL, he didn't get hardly anything, I heard.
Well, that we don't know that. It's all speculation.
It's speculation because he didn't get a lot.
Well, yeah, nobody truly knows. Nobody really knows. I mean, that's just to be fair, right? We don't know.
Yeah, that's going to wrap up sports for his team, man. We got to get moving on, man.
Real quick, Belly watch real fast. Belly, he's at 44 and Trout is at 45.
How many games do they got left?
19 games left.
You jinxed a motherfucker. If you don't get 50, I'm going to blame it on you. You've been calling 50 all year, and I told you stop jinxing it.
Shut up.
I'm just saying.
Shut up, bitch.
All right.
But I know that the magic number is 4 right now for the Dodgers to clinch.
Right on.
The people we love, because they keep us going. They give us money. So shut up about hearing their commercial.
Hey, T, did you hear about new Hopsy beer? It's a Keurig for beers.
I did, King. Hopsy partners with a long list of breweries, and they ship mini kegs to your home or your office, and they bring fresh beer to the comfort of your own home.
Go to hopsy.beer/II for great deals. This package includes a sub-home draft machine, 2 Hopsy glasses, 2 mini kegs, and a free membership in their monthly beer club. For a great low price, you got to check out that price, T.
HOPSY.
Hopsy.
It's time for some entertainment. Because apparently everything you've heard up to this point has not been entertaining.
All right, man. So, yeah, get into our entertainment spot, man. We usually talk about movies, talk about subjects, T, talk about actors, talk about things like this. We're going to talk about a character this time.
Ooh.
Right? So, I like Superman, bro. Superman was the shit.
Oh.
You know, Superman came out, started out as a comic.
Oh, yeah.
Then he hit a TV show, made an appearance on I Love Lucy.
He was like the comic.
He was the guy.
Yeah.
He was the show, and then that's what started the Batman show and all that other shit.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then even the movies. The first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve was just awesome when it came out. It sucks now compared to all this CG stuff, but when it came out in the theaters, that movie was awesome.
Yeah.
All the Supermans were. So I really am a big Superman fan.
Yeah, I mean, they
What
had
about
all
you,
the
man?
great guys. I love them. I love the Superman movies. You know, come on, who wouldn't like it? I mean, look at who Lex Luthor was.
Gene Hackman.
Exactly. Who was in the second one? He's dead now. Comedian, one of the greatest, probably the greatest comedian that ever lived, Richard Pryor.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Every cast was star-studded. You had Ned Beatty in the first one. You had Margot Kidder. I think they could have done a hell of a lot better for fucking
I think
Lois
so
Lane,
too, but
anyway.
we're not going to go in there.
Yeah.
But
She blew the director or something. But what we're going to talk about today, D, is not just Superman, but the curse of Superman, bro. So why don't you go and take it, man?
all right, so we all know that, you know, Superman's been around forever, right? I think it started in the 50s, things like that. But, you know, there's a lot of things that have happened behind the scenes that have happened to the actors, or not even just the actors, people associated with the movies, with the television shows, with everything. And it's been kind of a curse. You know, so we got this situation where, you know how they talk about the 6 degrees of separation, things like that. Well, this is the Superman curse. And the curse goes that everybody that's been attached or affiliated with the Superman movies, television show, or even some of the cartoons, somehow, some way have had a lot of negative shit happen to them in their lives.
Well, some of them even died, right?
Correct. And that was Kirk Allen, right? He was in the low budget 1940 movies that really kind of didn't work out. It didn't really pan out. And, you know, he did a lot of voiceovers for them, things like that. And he died of Alzheimer's, man. I mean, this guy, he did a lot of voiceover work later.
No, that's dying of Alzheimer's. The other guy shot himself.
Well, yeah, exactly. You have,
That's what I'm talking about. Fuck, the guy died of old age. I'm not worried about him. It's the other guy, right? Didn't he shoot himself?
yes.
That's what I was talking about on I Love Lucy.
Correct. I remember that episode, actually. He did show up and he did a thing with them. And that was George Reeves. It was another Reeve, actually. It's kind of weird, huh? How it
He
plays
was
out
the
like that.
most famous Superman.
He was the most famous in
when the
1951.
TV started coming out.
Yeah, that was 1951. And that was, he played Superman and the Mole Man is in that movie. And then he did The Adventures of Superman. And, you know, he was closely associated with the role. He was known, like you said, he was the most famous one of them all. And he died of a gunshot wound. Now, here's the thing. He was found dead of a gunshot wound in his home with his Luger near him. It was a Luger gun. And it was ruled a suicide. But now there's controversy around it about fingerprints and, you know, whether the gun had his fingerprints or if he was murdered. And that's the other thing. They're saying that, you know, conspiracy theories, people are saying he might have been murdered, you know, but again, tragedy happened to this guy.
I think it happens to a lot of other people. What else is there? I mean, that's just the one thing. There was other stuff we talked about, right?
So there was other guys. So like you mentioned, Christopher Reeve. I mean, we all know what happened. He had the 3 Supermans. I mean, Christopher Reeve was probably one of the smoothest, coolest ass Supermans that you've ever seen. You know,
I think he was the most exposed because at that time there was a media outlet for him. It was, not too long ago, and it hit the most people.
True, but if you see the Superman remake nowadays, it just doesn't seem like it, like the actor and everything. He was okay. I think Christopher Reeve really kind of embodied and really kind of embraced the role, and he just was so damn smooth. But if those of you who don't know much about Christopher Reeve, not besides the Superman, he actually was paralyzed from the neck down after being thrown from his horse in a cross-country equestrian, which is horse riding event. And he was really messed up after that. The poor guy, his way of life changed completely, and he eventually did die of heart failure in, 2004. He died of heart failure,
Well, I think once they have an event like that and snap their spinal cord, things are just downhill from there. They can't do much, Their body starts deteriorating.
Exactly. And that's just, it's sad. It's really sad. And you're right. It just starts deteriorating and it's just downhill from there. But kind of going back to, besides Christopher Reeves, there was that Lee Quigley who played the baby in the 1978 film. He was only 14 years old and he died of solvent abuse. That's crazy.
Which one was the 78 film? That's the first one with Christopher Reeve?
Yeah, that was the very first one. He played the little baby. He played baby Christopher Reeve when he landed in the farm.
Okay.
And he died of solvent abuse in 1991. I mean, this is just crazy. The list goes on and on. What Marlon Brando, his son, what happened with Brando. And it's not directly related, but he was in the movies, because he played Superman's dad, if you remember that. In the movies.
Right. Yeah. He was Kal-El's dad.
Exactly. So the thing is, whatever the guy's name was, but his son killed himself. I don't know if you remember that, or, and he also killed, his son killed his daughter's boyfriend in 1990. He went to prison for 5 years. And then later, I think his son died of an OD, right?
Something like that. Or I thought maybe even he shot himself. Something like this. Was like, so his son eventually did die himself. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, it's not directly related. I think it's kind of grasping, but at the same time, it's one of those things that you can, 6 degrees of separation type of thing, right? Well, no, I think what we're talking about is people that are related to these movies have some issues in their lives a little bit more than normal. Right?
And it's kind of crazy. I mean, I wonder if you break down other movies, if this is similar, if you can kind of find the degree with other movies.
I think you probably can if you dig deep enough, but I think this is just so coincidental to you is why we brought it up. We started looking at it and
because you don't really have to dig. So much
coincidence. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just finish off the list.
Margaret Kidder. Okay, so Margaret Kidder.
Margot Kidder.
Margot Kidder. Thank you. She had bipolar disease. I mean, she was in a paranoid delusional state. I think she went to a mental hospital for a while, and, she died of drug and alcohol overdose, which was ruled a suicide. So she had a really hard life. And we talk about mental abuse all the time over here and having mental issues. She had a lot of mental issues, man. She broke down publicly on camera in interviews. I mean, she was just in real bad shape, The other one is Richard Pryor. I mentioned him earlier. Richard Pryor was a great comedian, probably the greatest comedian ever. And he had a well-known drug abuse problem, and he had a failed suicide attempt. He caught himself on fire freebasing, and then later on in his life, he had MS and he died of a heart attack in 2005 at the age of 65. And, the last one that I'm going to talk about is Dana Reeve, which was Christopher Reeve's wife. She looked perfectly healthy. She was always by his side. She was always doing everything. And, she was a non-smoker. She lived a pretty healthy life. And next thing you know, in 2006, at the age of 44, after Christopher Reeve died, I think only a few years after he died, because he died in 04, 2 years later, she dies at the age of 44 of lung cancer. And she never smoked.
Yeah, no, that's weird.
That is
probably
very weird.
genetics or something with that.
Genetics, maybe, I don't know if Christopher Reeve smoked, but maybe it was a lot of secondhand smoke. Remember back in the day, there was always, restaurants you can go into and smoking or non-smoking, things like that.
Could have been even that.
Yeah, you never know. But it's just kind of weird. And then you have a lot of really, really distant DC comic type stuff that you can get into. But I wanted to focus mainly on just the people that were in the movies, the people that were in the television shows that we all can remember and were directly influenced, instead of like the comics. Because some of the comic book stuff, I mean, it kind of is a stretch with the cartoons and stuff like that. You had a lot of actors that didn't even have anything happen to them, other than their careers really never took off after that. Was Dean Cain. Remember when they had the revival of Superman, and he played Superman on the television show?
Well, I think that's sort of his legacy. That show ran for a while. He made money on that show. It's sort of probably what's keeping him relevant now.
Well, he's not relevant, but probably keeping him with a check.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's probably getting a check still.
I don't know if it's still in syndication.
Maybe not, but he made a lot of other little short shit too.
He did. You
know what I mean? So it was all off of that.
Right, because it was Lois and Clark. That was the name of it.
Oh, yeah.
It was Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
But nothing really ever happened to him. So there's a lot of guys that nothing ever really happened to, but he was probably the most well-known one that came out, and it didn't happen. But the big name guys, the big name people, something always happened to them in their life. Tragic. So, I mean, to me, that's the curse of Superman right there. That proves that there's something.
Well, I don't know if it proves there was something. I think it's like you said, it's just, the coincidence behind it. But I think sort of what I was hoping you were going to talk about, what's making this thing a curse? When I saw this thing up, I understand all these things happen to these folks, but
nobody really knows.
Well, I mean, what's your take on it? Why do you think these things are happening? What's so significant about this? What's going on with this that's making all this happen?
Well, I think something can be similar if you were to look at the movie Star Wars. Right. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the cast of Star Wars when they first came out, they all had their own issues. Mark Hamill almost died in a car accident. That's why in the third Star Wars, the original, so it was he looked fucked up. And that was episode 6. He looked really bad. His face looked really bad because he almost died in a car accident. Carrie Fisher, known drug abuser, and eventually did die of drug overdose. You can make similarities. You can make that correlation that something around that time in that era, whether it was Hollywood at the time, with the exception of the guy that...
Well, I don't even think it was Hollywood at the time. I mean, it's just notorious that these actors are abusing themselves, doing things, living life on the edge, and they put themselves in those positions. But what about this specifically? I'm talking about Superman. Right. Not about Star Wars.
Well, no, but I'm saying there's correlations between them. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no real... that I can think of or that I've read that you can actually put it, it's just a series of misfortunes that have happened to these actors. And that's why it's called the Curse of Superman, because it involved people that were directly involved with the movie and television show and all this stuff with Superman, that it didn't happen with a lot of other types of series, whether it's movies or television. It's just really, really unique to this. And that's why they're saying that the curse just refers to that. But what else are you going to call it?
Well, I think even more than that, there was a lot of failed attempts at things they tried to do and things didn't take off right. Didn't they have a movie with Nick Cage? They had a Superman movie all pegged out, and
with Tim Burton was the director.
Yeah, and I thought we'd touch on that a little bit because I started thinking that might be part of the curse. That thing could even take off. They couldn't even get somebody to make a good one.
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean, right?
That could. I'm glad you brought up that point because you're absolutely right. That could be part of the curse. But I mean, how many movies actually get kind of shelved that don't even make it?
Not too many. Not big name movies like that with big name actors and stuff.
Well,
That was a big time movie, T. We looked at all that stuff. So that was a little bit strange what happened there, too. And I think that.
I think it was more of Tim Burton just kind of fucked it up.
Well, I think to me, I think that's part of that curse thing.
And I love Tim Burton movies, but I think he tried to make Superman into one of his weird characters. And that's what kind of screwed everything up, But it could go to that curse. I think you're right. I mean, you can attribute it to that. Absolutely. I wouldn't say no, but it's just one of those things. It's just odd that this movie in particular or Superman, this character, has so many things surrounding it that is just kind of weird. And that's why they had so many problems casting it in the modern day era. There's a lot of actors that know about the Curse of Superman that were big time actors that they were trying to get when they were trying to do the reboot and saying, hey, would you like to play Superman? And they all said no. A lot of guys turned that shit down. Because
of all these issues that these people have had?
Because of the Curse of Superman. Yeah. They all know it and they all said no. And and that's attributed to this as well. Because they know their Hollywood history. A lot of these actors know their Hollywood history and they don't want to do it. So it's just kind of weird, it's just one of those things. I don't know, King. I mean, what do you think? I mean,
no, like I said, I really didn't know much about it before we started talking about it. I felt it was more of a spin on not specifically what was wrong with everybody, but just that there was so many people that had these issues. And why really hasn't there been a good sequel out there after 1978 or those movies?
Because nobody wants to do it.
And that's, I think, the bigger curse of Superman than actually all these little things that happen to these people is that this image, this person, he's a piggyback now in the Justice League and all this shit. He can't be a standalone guy.
Well, think about this. Your point?
Think about this. They've had 2 or 3 movies that are about the Joker, who is a sidecar to Batman. They have another one coming out with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, I got to see that. That looks
and they
good.
Can't make a fucking Superman movie?
So I think you have a great point, right?
I mean, to me, that's a fucking big curse. That's the curse I'm talking about.
Well, that's the modern day curse. That's what the curse has led to because of all this.
No, that's the last 35 years because 78 was the last movie and 80, 82, maybe the sequels. After that, there hasn't been one.
The last 19 years because they tried to in the 2000s. They were trying to do that.
No, I know they tried, but what I'm saying is they can't make anything.
Well, okay,
and that's my point. Is that's the bigger curse. Something happened there because this thing's dying. Superman's dying. They can't put him out there.
No, they can't. Even in the comics, they struggle.
He's a sidecar in the Justice League now. They have not made They made a standalone Captain America, a Wonder Woman. Aquaman,
and that was actually good. I didn't think it would be.
Where the fuck is Superman? He should be the first one. So they can't do it.
They even tried to team him up with Batman, with Superman versus Batman, to your point.
And it took a shit.
Because of casting, too. And they casted Ben Affleck.
That's the biggest curse of this thing, is not all these little things that happen to people, but the brand's dying.
The brand
Superman's
is dying. Yeah.
It's the Superman death issue. We talked about that. So to me, I think that's the bigger effect of the curse of this shit. What's going on with this thing? And yeah, now you're at a point now where there's so much discussion about it in the industry. People are I'm not even going to fucking touch it.
No, because it's
death to them.
Death for their career.
Death to their career is death to something else.
Right.
So they don't even want to touch it. That's the curse I thought you were going to talk about.
Well, there's that too. Yeah. But I wanted to give like the background of where this whole curse kind of came from and what has plagued the people that were attached to it. So you make a great point.
I think it's like you said about Star Wars, or you dig into so many different things because these people were just out there. You can find it in any movie.
You can really.
Yeah.
So and I just threw it out there with Star Wars just kind of popped into my head because I was thinking with Carrie Fisher. I mean, look at who played Han Solo? Why am I blanking on his name?
Harrison Ford.
Thank you. He almost died in a plane accident. How many times has he had issues?
No, yeah, absolutely. But he's flying 50 times a month.
Well, true.
Your odds go up, dude.
Right.
I'm flying once a year. My odds are pretty low. You know
right,
what I mean?
Exactly. So, yeah. But what I'm saying is you can find that in anything. But for some reasons, this one really stands out more than any of them. Superman.
Yeah, no, see, like I said, I don't even think all those things stand out. I think what it is to me, the curse is that the whole thing's dying. Superman's dying. And that's a shame. That's the number one guy. He was the number one superhero.
He started it all.
He started it all.
He started it all.
He can't hang on. Fucking Captain America makes a movie. Wonder Woman makes a movie. You're shitting me.
Well, I would say Aquaman. I mean, come on, Aquaman was like the
That was
like
weak, dog.
yeah.
give me a
Aquaman, he was the
fucking break.
worst. Nobody liked Aquaman. Nobody even bought that fucking comic. I didn't. I was into comics. I never bought Aquaman because he sucked.
No, what was it? I used to watch Super Friends. Was it Super Friends or what was that one? Justice League.
Justice League.
Yeah, Justice League with the Super Friends.
Yeah. I know. Which
Shape of an ice pick or whatever. Remember? 'Cause they only
the Wonder Twins.
the Wonder
Those
Twins.
were the
yeah.
Wonder Twins.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and we got to get going, team.
We got to get wrapping up,
Yeah,
man.
we're wrapping everything up, man. I think that's going to do it for our show today. You know, we had a lot to talk about. We talked about some stuff going on and, you know, a lot of stuff out there still, T. I think the biggest point is that we talked about a little bit of men's health today. Guys, make sure and get your checks. Take care of yourself always. Keep that sexual experience going, no matter how old you are. So I think with that, T, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to sign off.
All right, so want to say thank you to everybody for hanging on there to the end. I'd like to say a big shout out to all the people that make this possible. All of the listeners, it's because of you. That's why we're doing this. And because of you listening, it's giving us the opportunity to continue going.
Don't forget to visit our website, www.thedoubleshow.com.
Don't forget our Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Double I Show.
Don't forget our social media.
We got Facebook, we got Twitter, and we are soon to be on Instagram.
Yeah, so remember, guys, if you go and post something, hashtag the Double I Show on our Twitter or our Facebook, and you're repping your gear, we'll get a hold of you at the end of October. If we feel you're in the running for a free hoodie, put some stuff out there. Be creative, guys. Anything else?
Don't be afraid to be creative. I like to see some weird stuff.
No, absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, obviously, just repping your gear is really not going to do it for you. You got to do something out of the ordinary to catch our eye, guys.
Exactly. Well, we love the fact that you're repping the gear, but we want to see you get freaky with it.
No, I want the ladies too.
Let that freak flag fly.
What about the ladies too?
Okay.
Oh, how about any lady posts a picture, she gets a free hoodie?
No, that's
All
not
right.
fair. That's sexist. Come on.
Sexist?
Yeah, because the guys can't do that. You just told them if you just wear it, we're not gonna, you're not gonna catch our attention.
Well, yeah, they got to do something.
Right, exactly. But you're saying the ladies, all you gotta do is wear it. That's sexist.
The ladies. Oh. All right, man. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Another wonderful show. Wrapping things up. Thanks to everybody for putting up with us. Our fucking backup studio. T, good job. Good show. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. For R.W. King, he is.
Sweet tea.
We are.
Out.
From California.
Checking in from the left coast where we take sound that combines sunshine with rhyme, move 'em around. Take it slow, watch the smoke we blow. Bring California swinging, this thing for show. Well, hey there, baby, doll, dance the go-go. Off a little mentally, I see it in slow-mo. Hollywood, the east side, Hub City, and Frisco. Guys with the flyers, fires up in the disco. Whoa, whoa, oh, now here we go. Mira, delincuentes, bum rush the show. Aquí in Cali, where trees so sweet, and these habits feeling Ari on this rugby beating on summer nights. We use our feet, keeping them out of danger, walking on these LA streets.